Welcome back. So today we're doing a deep dive into the early buzz around a new horror film, Helloween.
Right. It's being described as a killer chiller, focusing on, the whole cult of the clown idea.
Exactly. And we've pulled together the key details from the source material about the premise, the background, and, well, where the plot seems to be heading.
hmm The goal here is pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Give you a solid handle on this film before it drops.
Okay, so what grabbed me right away from the sources, and this is like a really unexpected detail, is the director. He's described as having a Javis-inspired background.
Yeah, that definitely makes you pause. A Javis approach for a clown horror film.
Right. Moving from, the shark in the water to the clown on the street, it says something about how he might be thinking about fear itself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It suggests maybe less emphasis on just startling you and more on that building dread, that unseen threat, which is classic Javis.
Uh-huh.
We're talking about Phil Claydon. And the sources definitely suggest this focus on sort of mass hysteria is intentional.
So for you listening, the takeaway is maybe this isn't just your standard clown slasher.
Probably not. It seems rooted in something more societal, tapping into that specific kind of anxiety, the fear of what's lurking just out of view, but, wrapped in that clown imagery.
Which is pretty potent these days.
Definitely.
Okay, let's dig into the specifics then. The creative team, writer-director Phil Claydon, and it's produced by Shogun Films.
Right.
There's another piece in the sources about Claydon that's interesting.
Oh, yeah.
They mention him also being involved with something called the Friendly Shark Giant Fin.
A friendly shark. Seriously.
Apparently. So it's quite the contrast to a violent clown movie. It shows maybe a certain range. He understands different kinds of creature narratives, perhaps.
That's fascinating. It kind of mirrors the whole clown thing itself, right?
Yeah,
Designed to be friendly, but hiding something else.
good point.
A filmmaker who plays with both friendly and predatory figures. Well, it suggests he might be interested in that blurry line between harmless and dangerous.
Could be a subtle take on the clown trope, then.
Maybe. But the film setting is really crucial for grounding the fear. It's specifically set in 2016.
And that's not random. The sources are clear. It's capitalizing on the real killer clown craze from that year.
Exactly, that global phenomenon.
Which makes it feel relevant, even now. The sources talk about the vibe back then, chaos on the streets, media fueling it with fear-mongering headlines. So they're not just inventing a monster. They're plugging into a real moment of, widespread social anxiety.
Absolutely. And that 2016 craze, it wasn't really about one specific killer, was it? It was the idea that spread like wildfire through social media, news. It created this fear contagion.
Right.
Which is, if you think about it, perfect for a JWS-style horror. The threat isn't just one thing in one place. It's systemic, pervasive, maybe overwhelming the authorities.
Okay, so that's the foundation. A director playing with perception of threats, using a real-world panic as the backdrop.
Pretty solid setup for horror. Now let's get into the characters, the human side of the story. The main conflict kicks off in a pretty intense setting. A high-security psychiatric hospital.
Straight into psychological territory, then.
Seems like it. And our protagonist is Dr. Ellen Marks, played by Janine Narissa-Southcott. She is described as an embattled psychiatrist working there.
Embattled suggests she's already dealing with pressure, maybe from the system, even before the main plot hits.
Could be. And her main problem, or patient rather, is Carl King. Ronan Summers plays him.
And the description of Ken.
The sources don't mince words. He's a seriously violent psychopath and also a notorious child serial killer.
Okay. Wow. So the ultimate evil, basically, housed right there in her facility.
Pretty much. He's the core threat she's professionally responsible for containing.
That sets up a huge amount of tension. But then the sources say she teams up with a journalist. Why bring in an outsider?
That seems to be where the scope widens.
Yeah.
Dr. Marks deals with Kane, the individual psycho. But she works with John Parker. Michael Bure is an American investigative journalist.
Okay.
And they're trying to understand the bigger picture. This caustic clown contagion, the anarchistic clown uprising that's happening outside the hospital walls.
Ah, I see. So it's like she's got the contained evil, he's investigating the widespread chaos.
Exactly. It's the micro and the macro threat. They need both perspectives maybe to figure out how one guy's, evil gospel could spread like that, especially tying it back to that 2016 atmosphere.
So it's contrasting the personal psychological horror with this larger, almost ideological terror.
Yeah, that seems to be the dynamic they're setting up.
Okay, so then things must escalate, right? They're investigating, trying to figure out if Kane, still locked up, is somehow pulling the strings.
That's the central question, according to the sources.
Mm-hmm.
Could he be orchestrating events from deep in the bowels of the hospital?
That's a chilling idea in itself, directing chaos through just ideology.
It's pretty terrifying. It speaks to the power of, like, toxic ideas spreading. If it stayed purely psychological, the film might just be about them trying to cut off his communication or something. The sources say that phase doesn't last long. Things take a sharp turn when Kane escapes.
Of course.
And apparently, it's in shockingly brutal fashion. So the psychological game is over. The physical threat is now immediate and very real.
And once he's out, the focus shifts entirely for Dr. Marks, I bet.
Totally. The sources say it becomes personal. She's forced into this race against time to save her daughters from the killer's maniacal revenge.
Classic horror trope, but effective. The professional becomes the personal target. Her patient is now hunting her family.
Yeah, it ramps up the stakes massively. The intellectual puzzle becomes a fight for survival.
But you mentioned earlier this might go beyond just a serial killer on the loose.
Right, and this is where it gets really interesting and maybe a bit unexpected based on the initial setup. The conflict doesn't just end with Kane. As the sources put it, while there's bloody carnage outside, Dr. Marks finds herself fighting something that may not even be of this world.
Wait, what? Supernatural?
It certainly sounds like it.
Yeah.
The plot seems to jump from this grounded psychothriller into a confrontation with some kind of entity. They even use the term clown-mageddon.
The clown-mageddon. Okay. So hang on. They build up this realistic 2016 context, the human psychopath. Why bring in something potentially supernatural at the end? Doesn't that undercut the realism?
That's a really good question.
Yeah.
It seems like the film might be trying to bridge two types of horror. Maybe the idea is that the scale of the chaos, this evil gospel spreading nationwide, needed something more than just one escaped killer to explain it.
So the entity is like the ultimate source.
Perhaps. It elevates the final fight from just catching a killer to, like, battling the root cause of this mass phenomenon. It justifies the clown-mageddon scope, maybe in a way a purely human villain couldn't.
It's a big leap, though.
It is. It definitely shifts the genre towards the end.
All right, so let's talk logistics for anyone listening who's now curious about this. Journey from JWS inspiration to clown-mageddon. When and where can people actually see Helloween?
Okay, so for the U.S., the sources say it actually started its run in select theaters and on digital platforms from September 5th, 2025.
So it's available now digitally in the U.S.?
Correct. The material explicitly says out now on U.S. digital. Pretty immediate access there.
What about the U.K.?
The U.K. digital release is set for September 29th, so just a bit later, but still hitting right around that pre-Halloween spooky season. For physical media fans, the ones who like the extras,
Yeah.
the U.K. Blu-ray is coming out on October 13th.
Okay, and do the sources mention what's special about that Blu-ray release? Any specific features?
They do. It sounds like a decent package. It includes behind-the-scenes stuff, which could be interesting given the production scope. Also deleted scenes, which might give clues about that psychological versus supernatural balance we were talking about.
Right, maybe scenes that leaned more one way or the other.
Exactly. And, crucially, a director's commentary, which honestly sounds essential if you really want to unpack Claydon's thinking, especially with that friendly shark killer clown range and the jump to the supernatural.
Definitely. That commentary could be key to understanding that final act shift. Okay, so let's recap our deep dive on Helloween based on the early material. We started with the director's surprising Joyce-inspired background.
Right, and how the film grounds itself in that very real panic of the 2016 killer clown craze.
Then we looked at the core conflict. Dr. Marks, the psychiatrist, dealing with the contained evil of Carl Kane, this notorious killer.
And how that explodes when he escapes, making it intensely personal for her and her family.
Before finally escalating into, well, clown-mageddon, a confrontation with something potentially beyond human.
Yeah, that whole jump from psychological thriller to potentially supernatural horror in the finale.
Which brings us to that final thought for you to consider.
Yeah, this trajectory the film seems to take. It starts with very real, very human fears, right? Social panic, a depraved serial killer exploiting that, grounded stuff. But then to reach its climax, to explain the sheer scale of the evil gospel, it feels the need to introduce something explicitly not of this world.
So the question is,
well, what does that say about where horror is right now? Is the purely human psychological terror, the fear of what people are capable of, the fear within society itself, is that no longer seen as, I don't know, Enough to provide that ultimate catharsis or terror in a big horror film?
Do we always need the monster to be, like, literally monstrous?
Exactly. Why does the resolution often seem to require stepping away from the human source of the horror into something else? Something to think about, maybe, the next time a film uses real-world anxiety as a launch pad but lands somewhere entirely supernatural.